I tell you folks, I've been having a time of it here. I've been fighting with the wind, as is always a problem for people outside. Trying to use a gas forge with a Venturi burner. Pretty much when I was trying to look up fixes for it, basically everyone was like, block the wind, you dimwit. Like, well, yeah, that's easier said than done. While this area I've chosen is one of the best for forging for a lot of reasons, for other reasons, it isn't really. You know, we have this big solid wall here of the fence. It's only like 6 foot high solid, but that makes a bit of turbulence. We have this big, flat, boring side of the house, which makes more turbulence. Now, of course, my tent over here, even more turbulence. Heck, my little wind barrier might be more turbulence. So the wind, which is omnipresent here, being so close to the sea, it just swirls around here. So there's not one specific direction I can block the wind. As you can see, I have this gigantic baffle in the back here. This thing is made out of old, what are these? 2x6, 2x8s? I always underestimate the size of them because they're never quite their nominal height. Yeah, it's just a staggered board, incredibly simple. I knocked this together shortly. And originally it was on this side, the long side, the wide side, or I could have it sticking out, thinking it would help keep wind from coming in this way, at this angle, but that didn't help at all. Now I moved it back here, thinking if I kind of blocked where a lot of the wind comes in this side of the tent and blows in, that would help. It didn't. I thought about building another one so that I could have it blocked from two sides, which I haven't done yet, obviously. In my frustrations, I took it down into the basement. Shut the door, started sucking on the gas fumes, and turned it on. And even down there, it was still backfiring, spitting flame out up through the burner instead of, well, coming up the burner and like venting out here rather than going through the forge body. So I was very frustrated and just kind of threw my hands up and said, well, I'll let it cool down so I can take some video of it, and I will take a video showcasing pretty much everything from like where the burner is set inside, right where they said, pretty much right where the get my hand in frame, right where the right where the refractory cement kind of flares out. They said you should have it just above that, which it is, which I found partially by finger guessing, and then partially once I had it there by adjusting the height of it while it was running and listening. So of course after it cooled down and I went back to film it and I started explaining everything I'd done so far, I lit it up and it worked just perfectly. Of course, when I was trying this last night, it almost immediately would invert there. But today it isn't. Ain't that the way it goes? You get a camera on something to try to seek help, and it stops being a bother. So, here we are outside. I do have other ideas to try, but basically, I'm going to fire it up and see what happens. I'm at the throwing stuff at the wall and see what works phase. So I'll get the gas on and get it fired up and we'll see what she does. We'll see the tent waving in and out as the breeze blows. We'll see. Wish me luck. Running about 7.5 pounds right now. Most of it has been blowing the right direction. Too bright, of course, to see any flame, but I can see ripples coming off the edge. And there she goes. little blow down the top of it, give it a little extra help. One of the options, a fellow I saw, was blocking the air from blowing into the intake. I wondered about that, but I did bring out a piece of, well, garbage to see if I can help with that. Nope. I did rather brick that off when I was experimenting originally, building a chimney of bricks around it, which did not help. Nor does that. Small windscreen on the front, which I had tried before, but who knows. Alright, no dice there either. I guess now we try something else. In the spirit of throwing stuff against the wall until something sticks, here is a temporary windbreak to sort of test and see if a more solid windbreak, closer-ish, might help. I think that's a no. The Pokemon anime was a bit after my time here in the States, but I feel like I'm using the Ash strategy of if you're doing something that doesn't work, just do it harder. So I have sawn my wall in half, adding 2 more supports for it so that I could have a little bit better coverage. And then I pushed my forge back even farther because, you know, having a 100-yard dash from your forge to your anvil is always wonderful. And left the temporary blockers up here. So fire it up and see how this holds out. I'm hoping it's back far enough to be protected, and that if I just build the wall out this way, it'll work in the long run. Here's hoping. As soon as that wind changes just a little. I don't know, like, I'm out of ideas. I feel like this is the sort of time where if I were trying to film it in the basement, it wouldn't be working either. But of course, you know, the minute that I actually do that, then it works just fine. It's like, oh yeah, air's your only problem. I don't know what I'm doing. Send help, please. Doing a little research led to one possibility that I haven't really worked with on this whole let's build a shelter and hide it from the wind and all that. And that's the simple idea of adjusting the pressure. Now, as I may have mentioned, I've tried it with different pressures, and it has very little effect. But reading on the forums and such about the mechanics of, I forget the name of it now, but basically the place where the fuel and air mixture is exactly correct, burning out the fuel and then retreating back to where the fuel is, essentially, and inverting the whole thing, which is kind of what it's doing, burning up the available fuel-air mixture, and then more fuel gets pumped in and ignites on the heat and all that, which would cause the sputtering that I'd been witnessing. One of the suggestions in there was essentially don't dink around with the little 1 and 2 PSI adjustments and go big or go home, essentially. So we're kind of doing the Pikachu try harder, just with fuel this time, and we will see how it works. I had been running at the about 7.5 to about 10 PSI, which from part of the reading I was finding was saying that would be just fine. Other people are saying no, like 13, 15 minimum. A lot of it depends on the size of the forge, obviously. I've heard reference to people doing the math on certain forge sizes, but nobody's shared the equation yet, so I have no idea about that part. But I think I will do the same thing, just try higher and higher pressure and see if anything is more solid and stable. Who knows, maybe I'll even be able to get steel up over a mild orange heat. This is at 15. I'm not going to record the whole thing because I expect it to go quite a while. We'll see how it heats up. So far, I've been running it for about 15 minutes before it had its first little inversion. I choked the air back on it. It's been running nicely since then. I have this little scrap chunk of, well, I shouldn't say scrap, but this little piece of bar. It's still not getting very hot though. If you can make any of that out, it's just slightly more orange than a bright red, or a dark red, I guess. Usually that's about the heat you should be putting it back on that I am so bad at actually doing. I guess unless you're straightening it out or whatnot. I don't know, maybe more pressure and see how that goes. So I have my regulator wide open at 20 PSI here. It's been in there, I don't know, almost 5 minutes. Whoa, that's hot. Ah, crap. It's a little more orange, but just barely. That's about in the hottest spot there. Whew. Really spits out that dragon's breath, though. I don't know if I need to re-choke it or readjust it. I can play with that a bit. I think one major component that's causing me problem is those bricks in back. As you can see, they aren't coated with anything. I need to get some more Plistics to get a nice heat reflective barrier and some refractory cement to make them a little less porous. Maybe I'll play with the choke and see if I can't get a little bit more color out of that. Running her here at 20 with the air about 2/3 open gives me pretty much the best I've got so far, which is to say, sort of a brighter orange, almost yellow. Not quite almost yellow. Pretty scaly at this point. Of course, it's been in here for a long while, getting all the carbon burn out. It still needs a lot of tuning, but I think I can do something with this.